Welcome to Climate Quickies, bite-sized nuggets of climate goodness from our TEDxLondon experts in under 5 minutes.
In this week's Climate Curious, recorded live at TED, we're talking monarch butterflies with photographer and National Geographic explorer Jaime Rojo. Let's hear more from Jaime. Stay curious.
Hello, my name is Jaime Rojo, and I am a photographer and a National Geographic explorer that has spent the last 20 years chasing monarch butterflies. So when I first saw the monarch butterflies, it was in the early 2000s, and I had just moved to Mexico from Spain to finish my studies in environmental sciences and to work in a local nonprofit that worked in conservation. And I got this opportunity to visit the wintering sanctuaries, and I became fascinated with the monarchs. And back then, I was already a very serious amateur photographer, and I wanted to become a professional. And I knew that I needed to develop a body of work that was relevant in a global scale, that was beautiful. And I thought the monarchs were great for that because they were a very popular species in the heart of a beautiful ecoregion in Mexico, the neovolcanic axis, and these forests where the monarchs live are located in very beautiful mountains. So because I was living in Mexico City and these forests were just 3 hours away from home, I started to visit the monarchs more regularly during the weekends. And slowly, in the process of a few years, some of my pictures about the monarch wintering sanctuaries became started to get some awards. Some of my pictures about the monarch butterflies started to get more notice, and I got a few awards that encouraged me to keep working on this thing. And I think a key moment was a conversation with a National Geographic editor, Kathy Moran, that she saw my portfolio about monarchs. And she said, okay, these are beautiful images, but I need to know what is the story. No, I would like to know more about these butterflies. And until then, I had not really approached photography from a storytelling perspective. I was just creating these beautiful images. But then slowly, I got interested in this process. I got the opportunity to document a unique situation that happened in the monarch butterfly sanctuaries, a winter storm that killed 60% of the population. And I was really impressed. And that picture won a World Press Photo Award, which kind of introduced me to the photojournalism community and inspired me to continue in that line. And then I keep trying, and I pitched the story, and I expanded my coverage to Canada and the US, and not only to the beauty or the natural history, but also to the threats and to the people working to protect it. And eventually, like 3 years ago, I got a grant from National Geographic Society, and at the same time, I got an assignment from National Geographic magazine to work on my dream project, a story to tell the migration of the monarch with pictures, but also to focus on the environmental threats and the people working to protect them. And that story was the cover story of the January 2024 issue this year, which is like a dream come true. As a photographer, I have always been interested in the story of climate change and our role. And I remember very well reading about climate change many years ago, like late 90s, when I was starting to study environmental sciences, and thinking that was a very powerful narrative, that at the same time, I wanted to get involved, to go beyond photography and do something. And I guess that's part of the reason why I studied environmental sciences, and for a few years I worked in conservation, because I saw the climate crisis as something that would affect us all, and every bit of our work could be part of the solution. And then later on, when I decided to transition from conservation to photography and storytelling, Climate change has always been an underlying narrative in every project that I do. Climate change is a must. It's always part of the story. I am a little bit biased toward monarchs, and I have to emphasize that one of my most powerful images ever is that snowstorm and the monarchs that I mentioned earlier. That was a turning point in my career, and I think it's fair to insist that for the first time documenting the climate crisis and the impact on the monarchs showed me how powerful it was. But other than monarchs, I have spent a lot of time in Mexico, more than 15 years, and I have enjoyed very much the wild nature of my second country. I am particularly fond of a project that I did in the cloud forest of El Triunfo, a region that I have visited 3 times and seen the changes, seeing how climate change is affecting these beautiful mountains, because it's a place that is an isolated mountaintop that the species that live there don't have anywhere else to go. There is no connectivity, and it's a very unique ecosystem. You have quetzal, you have the horned one, you have tapir, you have jaguars, and it's a really wild and beautiful place, very threatened by climate change. I have spent 20 years working with the monarchs, but that doesn't mean that I only work with monarchs. No? For me, the monarchs have been like my totem species, like an underlying work that has kept me connected to something in the long term. The decline of the monarchs is telling us a bigger story. It's the story of our relationship as a society with the planet, with how we produce our food, how we tender our gardens. It's a bigger story, and that's what is wonderful about these butterflies. I feel a lot of responsibility to share the truth with my images, and especially to try to change things. I would like that my work could help to create new protected areas, to protect new species, and it's easier said than done, because we live in a time in which our society is flooded with beautiful images. So I think, as a photographer, a powerful storytelling kit, a powerful narrative, combined with integrity and a track record that people know that you're someone that is honest and that tell the real thing. And of course, beautiful images. I always think that combination is very powerful, and I really hope it can help to contribute something to protect this beautiful planet that we live in.
Thanks for listening to this quickie.
This episode was created by our superstar podcast team at TEDxLondon. Until next time,
Stay curious.